one for you and Tim.
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Give you a little.
Are you?
Love you, me.
Yeah.
You got the drink, I mean.
You don't like
Good afternoon, everyone. This is our normal scheduled workshop meeting with Commission and Management. We have with us this evening our distinguished Register of Deeds, Mr. Mark Gravitt. We appreciate him coming here to brief us on a couple of things. So I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Gravitt. Mr. Gravitt, I tell you what, why don't you come over? Why don't you just sit right here, sir, if you don't mind?
Okay.
Let me get you a chair right behind us here. And that way you can share this microphone. Speak right into the mic.
Well, I'm not sure I'll need a microphone. I've never been accused of being quiet.
I can amen to that.
How's that?
Thank you, sir.
You just go right there.
Thank y'all for allowing me here this afternoon. It's been a while since I've been here. I don't think I've been here since I became the county register. And I certainly have always appreciated the administration and the citizens of Collegedale for always making me feel welcome anytime I've ever came. Can I borrow that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I left all of mine sitting up there.
Yes, sir.
What I'm here discussing tonight, in the past few years, there's been an increase in what the FBI refers to as paper terrorism. It's directed in the previous years mainly towards judges, law enforcement officials, elected officials, government staff, but it's also becoming more and more prevalent towards the elderly and therefore members of the general public as well. There's been an increase in mortgage fraud with property owners having fraudulent deeds and liens recording in their names or on property. I was a real estate broker for 27 years before serving in this capacity. And to be honest with you, I never dreamed that we would run into property fraud. I mean, who would try to steal real estate? But it is prevalent. And we were talking earlier before we got started that you can Google it. In May of 2018, there were 5 people in Knoxville that were convicted of more than 200 counts of forgery and filing fraudulent liens totaling over $137 million. And folks, that's right up the road an hour and a half. So it is here. In the 3 years since I've been Register of Deeds, we have had one case that has been bound over to the grand jury and set to go to trial whenever the courts do start back up of this occurring in Hamilton County. So a few months ago, I think all of us have seen the commercials relating to a pay-per-service organization company that where you can go in and sign up for their program. And it dawned on me sitting there watching this commercial, they're getting their information from my office. There's 2 companies that we send out information monthly to. Both of them are in California, and they pay to receive that information. So the following Monday, I got with my IT manager and my chief deputy, and I said, look, can we do this? Is this a program that we could develop and institute for the citizens of Hamilton County? And they both looked at each other and then looked back at me and they said, sure. So it took us several months to develop the software. We did a lot of testing on it before we launched it. And then we went live with the program about 3 months ago, I guess it is. And what I'm trying to do is make rounds to all the municipalities in Hamilton County to let them know about this program. And you'll see the brochure here. And the good thing is that this costs nothing to the citizens of Hamilton County. It doesn't cost anything. It's a free service. You can go on there and you can register for the program using your personal name, your business name. It doesn't matter if it's an LLC or whatever, or you can do it by address. If you are a multi-property owner, you'll need to go in there and you'll need to register for each of your individual addresses. Then whenever a document comes into my office, it can be one that you know about. Within about 10 seconds of that document coming and being registered in my office, you'll receive an email notification saying, hey, this document was recorded in the Register of Deeds office, and it'll give you the phone number for you to call, and then we'll tell you what kind of document it was and who filed it, who prepared it. You'll be surprised at how many documents come through our office that are what we refer to as homemade documents. That people, which is, it's fine by Tennessee code, people are allowed to do that. So then after you call our office, then it is up to you, the property owner, to determine what course of action they want to take. If you want to call your county, your city of Collegedale Police Department, or if you want to call the DA's office or the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, that's up to you. And one of the things that people don't understand is whenever a document comes in and is recorded in my office, that is public record. It cannot be removed from public record. It doesn't matter if it's a falsified document. I still can't remove it, neither can any of my deputy clerks. The only way that a document can be removed from the record is by a judge's court order. So anyway, I'm just here to try to encourage you, to encourage your citizens to go on to our website and register for this free service. Here in another couple of months, we will also have it to where you'll receive a text message as well as an email notification if something does happen. So pending any questions about it.
So can we put this on our website?
Yeah, that's, thank you, Vice Mayor. That's one of the things that I mentioned earlier too. What I would like to request is that the commission and the city manager allow my IT manager to send you all a hyperlink and to where people can that visit the Collegedale city website, they can click on that hyperlink and be referred straight to our website and sign up for the program. Any further questions? All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all. Thanks for letting me come in here and butt in. It's always a pleasure to come to Collegedale. I appreciate y'all.
Take care, Marv.
You too.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. Oh, one other thing. I've got some brochures over here and the brochure holder too. If y'all don't mind, with y'all's permission, I'd like to just set them out there on the front counter.
Yes, sir.
And for anyone that comes in here for a visit, whenever y'all do get low, just call me. I'll see you some more. I'll bring them out here myself. As long as the mayor takes me to lunch.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
We have some for the EDC as well.
Y'all have a good afternoon.
Thanks,
Yes,
Mark.
sir.
Thanks, Mark. See you.
You too.
Okay, we had a management committee meeting of McKee Foods representatives and our city representatives on Friday. Had a very positive discussion. They had talked about that McKee Foods is willing to assist the city in maintenance of the park relative to McKee specific items in the park, that if those are damaged or need repair or need replacing, they will be glad to do that and pay for that themselves. So we were very pleased with that. And with that said, Mr. Hines, will you please present some of the plans to the commissioners relative to the Little Debbie Park at the Commons?
Sure. So in front of you, you have not to scale 11 by 17 printouts of the full plan set. and some of the renderings for the playground. And then that information is a little more condensed in this PowerPoint. So the vision for the park is a relaxed, natural area focusing on people rather than things. The donor is very, that is key to them.
He liked that when I said that comment, didn't
He did and asked us to put it in, so that is the vision for the park and what he's hoping to achieve. So some general highlights: large pavilion, 5 small pavilions, 8 swing structures that are double swings, and we have the plans for all of these: benches, playgrounds, block seating, bicycle racks, picnic tables, and on-street parking with a bridge over to our property on the east side of the creek. So this is the general layout for the park. If you'll, let me find the right button here. So over here is a large hill. This is the playground area in here, the large pavilion. These are the smaller pavilions that are scattered throughout the park. These are the swing sets right there. This is one of the small mounds, Stormwater Pond. This berm continues down from the hill to block some of the views. And here's the bridge over the creek, with these being open areas and this being lawn. These areas will be highly planted in trees. Again, that's the playground. And there's our back in on-street parking along the street. So this is just a zoom in version of the playground layout. It's also the printout that you have on the top of the playground setup. This is, oh, okay. Oh, that's good too. This is the area adjacent to the commons and closest to the street with the pavilion, small pavilion in there, swing sets, the sidewalks are all connecting. There we go. This is the lower area. Again, that's the stormwater pond and the bridge crossing over the creek, a couple of greenway connections here and here, etc. So grading highlights: large hill, 2 knolls, and 2 stormwater ponds. So again, that's the large hill. There's 1 knoll there, 1 knoll there, small stormwater pond, larger stormwater pond. This area right here has a small stacked stone wall. It's 24 or 30 inches that'll also be used for seating looking into the playground. Let's see. So playground highlights. I'll let you read the list. These are the things that are going to be in the playground and are also shown in the renderings. We do have a letter from the playground manufacturing that we meet the minimums for ADA compliance. The thought process behind the playground was a children's Ninja Warrior type climbing, running, jumping area. Right. So again, this is the playground layout. The printout in front of you probably shows it a little bit better. Where each piece is. These next few renderings show you this is the correct equipment, but it is a rendering, so trees and that sort of thing kind of take with a grain of salt as the locations aren't perfect. It's the zip line. You can see the rendering of the swing structure over there, small pavilion, etc. We will have 2 different kinds of footing. We'll have engineered wood fibers and then poured in place plastic. Depending on what it's underneath, the fall heights, the wear and tear of it, swings will have the poured in place, that sort of thing. This is the splitted balance beam, the acorn. This is the horizontal climbing apparatus. You have to forgive me, I have not memorized their specific names. So the following are the branded items, and as the city manager said, the corporation has agreed to pay for maintenance of those items. We received a draft today of what that would look like.
Yeah, I've been a little bit busy today, not being facetious with all due respect, overwhelmed to be blunt. So that is on my list of things to get to. I'm assuming it states what we talked about in our meeting on Friday, that they will do the corporate specific stuff, which is very important, commissioners, because that will not have city tax dollars paying for or maintaining and or replacing the key specific items. So there won't be an issue with that. They are aware of that. We successfully conveyed our concerns about that. Mr. Bartow and Mr. Hines, do you agree with that statement?
Mm-hmm.
Did I make that clear? And they were agreeable about it?
Yes.
Very good.
So
Keep going.
And I'll send that over to Sam for review to
Please do.
present after the park goes to planning commission. When it comes to city commission, I'll present that agreement with it as well at that time. So the branded items will be some snack shape, play sculptures, kind of climb and jump on, take pictures. Some signage and storyboards telling the history of the corporation. There's a mural on the large pavilion. Right now they're expecting to use the artist Allie Kay to do a history montage. And then there may be a life-size bronze of Little Debbie holding cakes, and that would be when she was a child, so in about the 3-foot high range. We do not have a rendering of that yet. So these would be the molded cakes basically for playing. You can see like the chocolate cupcakes, 5 foot tall. Some of these others are smaller, 18 inches to a foot. The 6 foot tall Christmas tree, 5 foot tall cosmic brownies.
Which I believe, if I remember correctly, I told them I wanted that 6 foot Christmas tree, right?
Right.
And they're going to pay for all of this. And if any of this gets damaged, they're going to pay for it specifically to replace it and inventory it.
Mm-hmm. And they may not have all of it in at the same time. They may, but for instance, the Christmas tree may only get placed at Christmas time and that sort of thing. That would be handled on the backside.
And where will these be located?
These will be in the area between the street on the northern edge, closer to the commons, following that path by the second knoll. This is their current thought process for the actual sign to the park. This is the storyboards we were talking about, again, going down that northern property line headed west to east. Simple navigation sign to point out the different areas of the playground and the park and that sort of thing. So now we'll move into the landscaping. 418 trees, 5,700 shrubs. This will qualify for arboretum status. We would need to have it all marked and signed and go through those steps, but we do have the variation in the numbers to qualify as an arboretum, and it is going to be irrigated per city requirements. So the bulk of the trees are in this area on this elevated hill, including on top of it, and the donor's vision really is so that when you're standing in this portion of the park and you're looking to the south or this direction, you're almost enveloped in nature, outside of the trees and that sort of thing. So this is the shrubs planting plan in the same area. As you see, they'll be doing shrubs underneath the tree cover on the hill. This area here will be sod. This is the various footing material for the playground. This is the edge by the commons. This is where the storyboards and the branded stuff isn't expected to be at this time. This area here will remain open for things like pickup soccer, that sort of thing. Again, this is the shrubbery plan in that same area. And this is that stormwater pond. The remainder, and this is only 2 feet deep, so it'll look more just like a depression than an actual pond. And this area will remain open for just open play. And that's the shrubbery plan again. So this is the large pavilion layout. We will have 2 restrooms plus a family restroom, so 3 in total, and a small water closet. We will have picnic tables. They're going to pre-pull the wires for camera systems. This is an elevation view looking at it. So this will be the open area with the picnic tables, and this is where the restrooms will be. In view.
So the roof will match the commons roof,
It will be similar.
the metal?
It'll be similar.
Okay.
I'm not, it's not
Yeah.
going to exactly match.
Right. So,
So, and this is the area with the mural on the inside of the pavilion. This will be heavy materials on the bottom, the party board at the top. We have not, they've not landed on the exact contents of the mural yet. That's still being worked out with the artist. Here's a blow up of the large pavilions, ADA accessible. So women's and men's, that's the family, and the water closet and mechanical room. So here's the small pavilion plan with the picnic tables. Here's the elevation of it. Again, heavy materials just on the base, and then timber and metal roofing. So this is for the swings. There will be 2 sets of swings under each swing platform. Here's a elevation of it. Again, the heavy materials here, single sloped swing. The swings will be rod and bearing versus chain. We felt that was pretty critical, and it'll be a heavy timber type construction. And so that's basically it on the playground itself at a high level. Again, there's a full set of full-size plans on that table if you want to flip through it in more detail. And you also have the 11x17s, which are just not to scale, but they are a full complete set, front and back, that go into more detail. We will be presenting at the next Planning Commission to get a recommendation, and then taking it to the City Commission the month after for a vote on acceptance of the park.
May I ask a question?
yes,
I was looking at the equipment and everything, and so I understand what you've laid there. On the sensory items that are here, I know those are for that people with wheelchairs and those with disabilities with sensory issues, they can go through. What exactly are in the that's going to be in it? I'm trying to figure out. It just says, you said sensory.
Oh, for ADA compliance?
Yeah.
Right. And so some are noisemakers, and that sort of thing. The exact tactile response, I'm not sure of.
Okay, I can see the little thing that they can push through.
Right.
Like a little thing. What about the swings? Are they going to be where all children can swing in them like we have out here at this park, at our park, where the swings themselves, they could even put a child that is quadriplegic, I'm trying to say, like muscular dystrophy, severely handicapped, they can still get in those because they are made for both children with and without disabilities. Are these swings just for those who are without?
What is currently spec'd is a more standard type swing in those swing sets.
Okay, so that's not, there's not in there. So basically for that, all they have is being able to ride through that little tunnel, push through that little tunnel.
And some of the sensory stuff.
Yeah. And what was the other thing that was sensory? There was 2 things I saw.
That was it.
They mentioned something else.
David and Wayne, explain to them what we discussed on Friday relative to adding additional features such as handicap swings and stuff like that.
So after completion of construction, it will revert down to a representative from the city, which will be the city manager, and a representative for the donors, which will probably be Rusty unless someone else is elected. And those two individuals can discuss adding or removing items. It would take both people to agree to add or remove.
So I can tell you, Commissioner Baker, unequivocally, that the city manager will be able to work with a representative from the key on something that is obvious as adding an additional feature, potentially from the same chains like we did out here, more handicapped accessible stuff. The park is ADA compliant to the best of my knowledge, correct?
It meets the minimums.
Exactly.
Which is 5%.
But that means ADA compliant.
Yeah, so it's the bare minimum.
But there is an option to add that stuff. I feel pretty comfortable with that based upon our meeting Friday.
So I think we all know how Debbie's passionate about ADA compliance.
I want a merry-go-round.
And I don't disagree with her. I think you're gonna have such a great park and
Yeah, spend that kind of money and just get
very
5%.
little for handicap.
We did specifically ask for the merry-go-round, and it didn't meet the vision or have a place that they could fit it.
Yeah,
Say that again.
We specifically asked for the ADA merry-go-round, and they didn't find a way to incorporate it and meet the vision.
that's it, spot right there.
I think
So,
we'll get there, Commissioner Baker. I think we will.
so am I hearing then later we can add in senior citizen exercise equipment?
If,
Because that was something I told Rusty from the very first discussion I had with him on this park, that it needed it being so close
To Greenbrook.
to Greenbrier Cove that they needed something for senior citizens exercise.
if both Rusty or his representative and the city manager agree to it, there is a significant sensitivity to adding more structures, and the vision of the park is nature. It's more plantings, trees, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
So what if the city manager and Rusty disagree with each other? You know, are we at 50-50 where it does not do any change or changes?
Correct. That's the way it's laid out in the deed, and I included a copy, that they both have to agree.
So to answer your question, Vice Mayor, I'm comfortable that I think that can happen because we have the exact same process across the street on this property with the current architectural design committee. That's why, in an effort to have a say going forward, we suggested that structure, that they copy what we already have in place elsewhere in the city. They agreed to do that. So we've always been able to work it out before to a very positive outcome. I am quite comfortable we'll be able to work it out again.
I'm only concerned because what I heard is it's not in the design for a merry-go-round or, and that's been.
And I mentioned that too about, with Katie, about the, having more exercise equipment for the senior citizens. I know we have some, and it's used frequently, we just need a little bit more. Even if it's along the walkway, because that's where ours is, makes it more accessible.
So let me answer again by saying this. You've heard Wayne use the phrase meets the vision several times.
But whose vision?
Rusty's.
Yeah,
However, I believe that that's not going to be a problem going forward when this park is built and people start to use it and we get some experience with the park, if you will, and we see what the people want, what the community wants, what makes sense. I believe going forward, as long as it makes sense, which is what we're talking about right now, whether it's senior citizen exercise equipment, whether it's something else, as long as it doesn't take away with the ability of people to be in the park and enjoy the park. Wayne also said a key thing, it's about people, not structures. So as long as we don't try to add any more structures into the park, exercise equipment is not structures. I believe, I'm very comfortable, we're going to be able to get that done based upon the vision and the usage of the park. The whole point of this park is to draw people to it, not with structures, but with stuff for them to do. So I'm comfortable we'll be able to do that.
Was Rusty in the meeting Friday?
He was.
Was he?
He sure was.
So I'm wondering why I got this email from him today. Did anybody else get an email from Rusty?
I printed it out.
So my question is, he talks about, I'd like to emphasize that the fund to pay for the park maintenance would come from the long-term growth, property tax-paying entities and families who want to live here.
And I
He
was-
doesn't say that the Little Debbie stuff is different. I'm just trying to get clarification on this.
So,
Perhaps you two can clarify for the vice mayor, because you heard it come out of his mouth and Connie Vaughn's mouth.
right.
So tell me.
So, go ahead.
My conversations with Connie Vaughn and one of the other McKee family members was that they had no expectations for the city to pay for any kind of upkeep, repairing, replacing, any of the branded playground equipment or anything else.
But that's a very small part of what the upkeep is going to be. And I can tell you right now, as long as I'm one of these commissioners over the next 3.5 years, I will not vote for a tax increase just to take care of that park.
So I guess my question is, I just didn't see where this came this morning, so it's hot off the press. And he also did send me a follow-up to that, he wants this park to be, if it doesn't have brown spaces or ground,
Yeah, it was weird.
he wants people to play and have fun. So I'm assuming I didn't see a place really to do that where he's talking about,
It was that open area.
is that where we're going to expect
Was it
people
free
playing
soccer?
soccer and all that?
Correct, in the open areas. And there was a separate email from the corporation because they're the ones paying for the branded items, not the donors. The argument on increased tax revenue due to increased property valuations is not one I can speculate on.
And I'm going to defend Rusty because, I appreciate getting this. I felt he outreached to us and, he may not realize how little money we get off residential
That's right.
homes for
Agreed,
revenue.
agreed.
A lot of people don't. So, we talked about during budget, I think it was like a $250,000 house, we'd get, I think it was like $125 or some crazy lesser amount, but we get money from other areas. But anyway, so that was my concern. I just want to make sure he and I are on the same page here.
Yeah,
I think,
I don't think we have to raise property tax to maintain it. I think we can just absorb it and then pay for, we buy a lot of stuff, maybe we push things out. It's all up to the budget. So,
Who's going to determine who the mural will portray?
they'll send us some ideas once they get to that point, and it would be the 6 people in the design committee. Like I said, up to this point, we've not had any real conversations. There was just some back and forth. I'm trying to move so I can block it for you.
No, it's coming from way up high.
Up to this point, we've not had those conversations. Like I said, they're working with that particular artist who's done some work at the corporate facilities. And it's going to be a historical mural. I'm not exactly sure what that portrays.
I kind of got the impression it was historic, maybe the history of the keys.
That would be what I would assume.
Yeah.
The word I was told was historical, so I'm trying to not read too much into it and lead you astray on an assumption. But we've not gotten into that level of detail yet.
Alec Kay is the same artist that did the big mural inside Founders Hall. So my guess is it will look a lot like the mural inside Founders.
And that's been very well received. That's been very well received.
Yes.
A lot of people spend a lot of time.
One of people's favorite things about the building.
Yeah. Well, I agree with Vice Mayor. I don't see raising taxes for what needs to happen here. And I do know that Rusty wants kids to be active. That's he wants motion out there. And that's why he's so committed to having open areas where they can just run and play and
And I told Rusty today, and when I responded back, I was glad we put that fence up to kind of segment the commons and the park. Because I felt like that when we have events there, weddings and stuff, you don't want everybody going towards the commons. You want to keep them, if you will, in the park area.
Well, and vice versa, when we have an event that the family, the donors may not be comfortable with bleeding over into the park, the fence keeps our events contained also.
Yeah, I hope we can come up with some resolution because I really think we need to have some more ADA playground equipment and also, as the mayor said, some stuff for the retirees and Greenbrier.
Let me ask this, I know it's a little bit separate, it's because it'd be two, I'm sorry.
I'm finished.
On the merry-go-round, the reason I said the merry-go-round, it could be another piece of equipment, but the merry-go-round to me was because it was inclusive for parents, children with or without, and it was, of course, I know they're expensive, but it allowed movement that they could use with their hands and so forth, and every child and adults could use it. And I know they'll probably, and I've said this, even if it wasn't in that area, would they consider putting it over in this area? A playground for like the imagination station, they want to keep it separate. I can understand that if they don't want to do that. But it would be nice if they don't want one in their area to add to it. Possibly donate to go into this area. What about the hill that's going, I think, David, you told me they're going to plant trees there, right in there? What are they going to do? Are they going to do trails?
No,
Just trees?
just trees,
There's going to be a mound with just trees there?
correct. To break up the eye-line view of the facility behind it,
Which is the common,
other direction,
or the direction?
Which is the Korean church in Greenbrier.
correct.
To kind
Okay, I
of
got you.
mask that view a little bit.
Match that.
They're looking
More of
that
a
way.
Natural.
There
If you
was
look out there
originally,
now, you look right at the Korean church,
Yeah,
you see Greenbrier.
yeah,
That's designed to mask that over a little bit.
okay.
Will it interfere with the view from the written facility?
I doubt it.
Are they far enough up on the hill they can look over it?
I believe so.
the tree canopy, depending on at what point in the future we're talking, will be pretty significant, regardless of the hill or not. So
What was the number? Of shrubs, 5,500?
57, 75. And some of those are small, so that's why you have so many. But yes, it's a big number.
So they all have to be cared for.
Yes.
Well, this looks nice, I can understand that. And it looks good, but it's like, my concern is, I like to see more than the 5%, the minimum, especially with that much money that's going into it. And I'd also like to see, more, even if it's along the walkway or something, more exercise equipment, that, adult senior citizens so forth can use. Because I know when I've come out in the mornings at 7:00, they're in use and, a lot of people out there would like to have more to do that.
And that may be able to be added in the future if an agreement's reached.
So that's the problem that bothers me, is that if that agreement is reached, because it doesn't give, the cities, it's going to be donated to the city. I think it's, I'm 98% for it, okay? My thing with that terminology is that if they disagree, it pretty much gives them the power to say, no, you're not going to add anything else.
Us
Yet we're
too.
taking on the responsibility of
Us too.
maintaining it.
It's a two-way street. It's 50-50.
Yeah,
So if they want to do something that we don't agree to, we can
they
say
can't do
no.
it, okay.
It's a 50-50 deal. It's a two-way street. That's why it's worked successful across the street. And that's why I fought to get that in
Okay,
the same context here as what we already have because it works.
okay.
So if something wants to be done over there, we as a city, I representing you and everybody else, have to agree. It's not unilateral, it's two-way.
Okay. Well, that helps some.
I think a big difference, though, is that up front, everything's solidified. So the future, I mean, adding things, just look at the design work and the layout of the park, trying to find places to add things. Because I talked to Rusty 30 minutes before we had the meeting. He wants an open space, more grass. So taking up areas that are open is going to be a challenge. So I get that, you know, in the future, but they're getting everything they want up front. So there might not be anything that they want to add that we get to use to say no to. So,
Well, Commissioner White, may I respond to that?
yeah, absolutely.
I think what you're finding is what we have dealt with the entire process. We have tried to negotiate in good faith. I, on Friday, thanked the family and thanked the corporation as not only the city manager, but as a taxpaying citizen of this city profusely. This is going to be an absolute showpiece. I understand your frustration. I hear that. But they have had a clear vision, which we're grateful for, because it's going to be fantastic. But they have had a clear vision of what they want to do. And they're spending big money to do it and give it to us. And so what the things that you are saying are the things that we have encountered for years. They want this, perhaps this, could we try this? This is the vision. And so what can I say to that?
What makes you
What I've
so,
already said.
what makes you so confident that moving forward, that position of asking will change in the positive light, where they will start working with us if you've had a roadblock up until this point?
History. The history of doing this for years. The history. And all of us are going to see that it's a good thing. The public's going to love it. And if the public's going to want something, we all know we all work for the taxpayer. Technically, even the corporation do, because that's their customer. And so the history has worked, and that's why we asked to repeat history to try to get something, because we don't have a situation where they just come in and say, this is what I want to do, that's it. We have an equal say, equal, 50-50, just like across the street. That's why.
So I think part of I'm not taking sides with the commissioner down at the end of the table here. I guess we're hearing this is what we're getting. There's no negotiation at this point.
We tried.
I'm just saying, so it's not a 50-50 at this moment. Whereas when we dealt with the other side of the family, when we were talking about the across the Veterans Park and the field and stuff, we were involved in that from day one. And
Yes.
We, the commission,
Yes.
And I think that's where we've got some reservations is this is great, but it's like I said, with the Commons, we saw the Commons change 4 or 5 times the design. It was round and now it's a great garage building with glass and beautiful fireplace. And I think it's a showplace too. So I share the concern. I am for this park. I am for everything about the park. I think it is going to be great. Again, I think we just need to kind of get our hands around the maintenance cost and figure out how we're going to do that, because I definitely think we can do it, absorb it without anything else from a tax perspective.
Your comments are correct, Vice Mayor, and I've owned that publicly. I've owned it privately. I don't know what else I can do to own it.
Well, I'm not saying, I'm not throwing you under the table. I'm just saying it is different. You say
Yes.
it is the same. It's really not the same. I mean, we've had a lot more partnership and now we're going to get a beautiful park. I totally agree with that based upon seeing this today. So.
Well, I think too, in all fairness, we need to understand, like you said, we dealt with different members of McKee's. It's like dealing with different members of your own family. I'm all for the park. I would like to, I am like you think, I'm thinking, it kind of bugs me that, and I'm trying to get it wrapped around my mind about like in the future, we can add this, we can add that. If we're going to respond or have a representative like we had before, when you dealt with the people across, the McKees that cross over here, because they've done really great work for our city. And at the same time, we've had a good partnership. I think because of the situation of dealing with this, it has nothing to do with you, Ted, nothing at all. It has to do with maybe a certain, different personalities at the McKees. And I don't mean any bad reflection or disrespect whatsoever. And their vision, I understand. There has to be, I'm concerned about that getting together and that down the road we can add something. You know, are we gonna have, I know you said we're gonna have equality, and we have had that with this over with the Veterans Park, but are the McKees that we're dealing with now, are they gonna be that way? Are, you know, are they gonna have someone that we can work with that would actually give the equality of the 50-50, you know, sharing?
Commissioner Baker, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Willing to be positive and go forward. I know that all of y'all are as well. I don't doubt that for a second. I think at the end of the day, this will be a good outcome, and I'm excited about this for the city.
Well, I
We
think
will
it's
make
good.
every effort to do so, as you and the vice mayor and Commissioner White have everybody requested. Absolutely, we'll put our best foot forward and do everything we can to ensure that that happens.
So it's probably worth noting that the initial vision didn't have hardscape. It didn't have restrooms. It didn't have pavilions. It was simply a topographical and planted open space.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
Yeah.
So there's
at
been
this-
lots of progress made already.
So there is at
Yes,
this
there has.
point a particular sensitivity
Tons
to
of-
adding additional structures.
Well, I know that I mean, I understand that, you know, I mean, I understand where they're coming from and so forth. I would have liked to have had more than the 5%. And that doesn't have to be a merry-go-round.
Mhm.
It could be, more than just them being able to stroll up underneath the tunnel-like things. And what's in there. I mean, anybody can go through it, but what is, and like you said, is it musical? Is it something that they can beat on the drum or whatever? I think there was something too, that they had a flower.
Yes,
I
that you
think I know
talk
what you're
into
talking
and
about. They talk through a tube that they talk
Correct.
through. And what that is they have a flower at one end, you talk to it, somebody can talk at the other end.
Mhm.
You know, that's a sensory.
Right.
I see a lot of sensory. I don't see a lot of course, the nature walk or something coming through.
and there's the xylophone, the stand-up xylophone thing, or
Yeah,
vertical where
that,
you
and
could come up to
there's
it.
different sensories other than just like music, there's touch, tactile and all that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. I do see some things in here that kids can access that's not labeled that. Maybe not as well as others, but they can access it if their parents put them on it or something. I don't mean to be hard to get along with. I just think that we have students, not just kids that are multi-handicapped, but I think that all citizens, we should be concerned with, and that these are children, and they're talking about their health. This is something that medically they need, and that would help them not just medically, but educationally. And I understand they're putting a great deal of money in it, because nothing's cheap if you want it for quality, and I appreciate it. But I think that more than 5%, other than a sidewalk going through a tunnel, which they're gonna have to put that sidewalk anyway, the way they've got it laid out. So it's not really there for, especially putting the tunnel over it, making it a sensory, that would be, and all kids can use that.
Commissioner Garland?
I'm kind of an optimist to a fault, but I really believe there are two things I'd like to say. Number one, knowing where this started and where it is today, we should all be very, very grateful, I think, because I think there was a time when it wasn't anything like what we've seen today. And I think it's a tremendous tribute to them wanting to actually listen. The other thing is, in my conversation with Rusty today, I guess we all wore him out. I was talking to her about 30 seconds. It became very clear that he wants everybody to move. And his desire to have people move, I think he'll see very quickly that he needs some more of this kind of equipment so that every child has that opportunity. And I wrote him a little statement, and he wrote me back, laughed out loud, because of the kind of humorous way of saying that everybody has to move to live. And I think he was so open to that today, plus they've come so far, I find it very difficult to think we want to hold them hostage over one piece of equipment or something like that. I think like these guys have made their points clear, and I don't think the door is ever going to be shut. So I think we got a good thing going, and I do believe we need some more of the kind of equipment we're talking about. But I think it's a much better than 50% chance of getting it.
Well, I think personally it'd be crazy not to move on because of, and I understand, because I remember, I think it was what, 5 years ago, somewhere like in that it was brought to us and it has come a long ways from that. I was just hoping that there would be more inclusiveness, and take an opportunity to possibly get that and have some insight into that. I see that it would be a good park. McKees do quality work, and furthermore, and I do have an issue though, or a question, I'm not gonna say it's an issue. I'm sorry. Rusty made a statement in the email that he sent to me, it was probably the same one that he sent to y'all, that about removing the brand name stuff, that it wasn't McKee's idea to put the brand name stuff in. So if it wasn't their idea to prove it, who in the world put it in?
That was the corporations when they were running through the various funding sources
Okay, so.
for the donation.
But they had to vote on it to do it, agreed that they wanted it. So, yeah, it would be the McKees wanted. I have no problem with it. I've seen what they have. I know they have climbing wall. I think it would be in good taste. I don't have any issues with that. I really don't. If it was some astronomical thing, huge, something that was going to look grotesque or something, yeah, I would.
So the corporation on Friday did make a point that their idea here is not a massive branding advertisement campaign. It is to tell the story of the family and how the park came to be.
It's historically like. Yeah.
Right. But they were not envisioning it as a massive advertisement campaign.
Okay.
I would just like to say this is so different than what Rusty talked about when he and I talked about it 7 years ago. He met me here in City Hall trying to convince me we needed a Central Park, New York Central Park type of park over here. I appreciate the efforts that our city manager and the group has done to work with them to get something that we can be proud of. I have a little bit of angst about having those Little Debbie snack cakes in there. However, since they put in my Nutty Buddies, maybe I can accept them.
Like a cosmic brownies.
When you
Any
see
other
him,
comments or questions?
when you see him next, tell him we need a pumpkin at pumpkin time. We need a heart at Valentine's, and we need a sunflower in the summertime. And then we can just move them on that little base, and he'd have something going all year round. But those aren't part. Yeah, they've got stuff like that in there.
David?
Cakes.
Well, commissioners? Okay, very good. Obviously, we haven't broken ground on this yet. There's still going to be other meetings and as far as other discussions, I'm sure as we go forward. So let's go on to the Collegedale Commons update. I've asked David Bartow, who is, we know, is our executive director of the Collegedale Tomorrow Foundation, to come in and give a commission the update on the latest rendering and potential funding needs for the community room at the Collegedale Commons.
I think I sent this file out to everybody. Here's a hard copy.
He's sitting in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's gonna look nice.
We've got a board meeting Thursday night, and at that board meeting, we're going to approve the bid price of $1,280,000 with Modus Builds Construction. Right now, we got another $10,000 donation in over the weekend. So we're now down to about 79,000 that we're shy on having the entire 1.28 in hand. But I believe I've got one of our board members is going to finish that up along with paying for the Commons to get its full Class 4 Arboretum status. I asked him for $100,000 to match one of his business partners, and he seems pretty open to that idea. We've also got 2 or 3 other donors who have given $25,000 to $10,000 apiece that we're waiting to hear back from. As of about a week ago, we were at 202,000 that we were short, and we got 100,000 in, and then a $7,500 donation and a $5,000 donation. So, once folks see that we're actually getting ready to start on this building, they are getting more excited about donating. So right now I'm hoping to be able to pull this thing in and not have to ask for any money from you folks. But right now we're right at $79,000 short, but we're in the allowances. I mean, at this point, construction is funded. We're now into, we've got a landscaping allowance and we've got a interior allowance. So, as far as getting the building built, we've got it.
David, go into a little bit about how the community room is next to the Commons but not attached, and why it's cheaper to do that. Go into some of those details so the commission can understand that it's next to but not connected to. I don't want them to have any confusion.
Okay. Yes, the annex is 40 feet away from Founders Hall. We were going to have it attached. What we ran into on attaching it was, first, we were going to have to rewire and re-pull all the wires to Founders Hall because we're maxed out on electrical for Founders Hall. Then we were going to have to redo the sprinkler system inside Founders Hall to hook to another building that was heated and cooled. It's 2 completely different kinds of sprinkler systems. Then we were going to have to sprinkle the new building. We ran into problems in the kitchen. Turns out most catering groups don't want a stove, so it didn't make any sense to spend $12,000 on a gas stove and then almost $75,000 for a hood and then a complete separate air conditioning system. So this thing has gone from 1.8 million when it was attached. That was EMJ's last bid, back down to about $1 million. And then as boils down to construction prices have gone up 22% in 1 year. So this thing, a little over a year ago, if we had this design, would have probably been about $1 million, but we've had to go back to some donors and ask for a little bit more because construction prices are just through the roof. I mean, right now, if I don't get the board to approve this, our carpentry bill goes up about $5,000. Because right now we've got our carpentry, we've literally got all the wood on standby, and they're guaranteeing the price for us. So this building has been a chore. We do intend on continuing the city's tradition that the Chamber of Commerce, the VFW, the American Legion, and the Kiwanis get to use the building for either their monthly or weekly meetings for free, just like down here at City Hall. We haven't come up with a rental schedule, a rental payment schedule yet.
My guess is it's going to be more than, say, the West Room, but not that much more, to keep it so small groups can use it.
Mr. Baker,
You're fine. You pretty much answered it.
questions from the commission?
That'll be a huge blessing for the community to have a community center other than just this one. I mean,
Well,
that's one of the biggest needs our community has, I think, is a community center that's open and available.
Well, and one of the things that I've enjoyed watching has been as the Parks and Rec program's grown is seeing how Christina's utilized Founders Hall and, seeing, I think this will make a great room for them because it'll have the smooth concrete floors. It'll have a little bit nicer walls and finishes than, say, this room does, but it's still going to be a room that Parks and Rec can utilize for their activities, along with civic groups and, small rooms in the kitchen. Run 2 events simultaneously. At one point this summer, huge wedding inside Founders Hall. A little girl called me and said that they had canceled at the last minute at her venue because of COVID. We actually put them in, had their wedding in our storage barn. So I think the need is there for the community room, and it will be well loved and well utilized.
So
Go ahead.
the kitchen will not have any kind of cookware or cooking ability?
It'll have in-wall ovens, and it'll have warming ovens, electric, not gas. And then we'll have, commercial microwaves. But the caterers I've talked to, they wanted commercial microwaves and plenty of counter space and sinks, big sinks.
So we can't scramble an egg in there?
You get a little old warming thing. We plug it in.
Thanks to the microwave, Commissioner.
The reason why I was asking was just for people who aren't using caterers. I know a lot of people cut costs and do it themselves, especially people in this community, with the kitchen here, having that capability.
I would say, golly gosh darn it, come up with $180,000, throw at me, and we'll add that in. Because it was horribly expensive, Andrew, to have the stove, the range, and then we had to have an entirely separate AC system just for the. It was just one thing after another because you have to keep up with the state fire marshal and everything else.
Well, most
Seems like they're
caterers,
different
even though,
sizes.
like I cook a lot, even when I've used this room for things, I
I guess
cook
they
at home
cook
and bring
everything
it
at their
in
shop and bring it.
and just use it.
Yeah, for the most part, it's microwaves. And then they need to we've got a warming oven over there now that we rent to people. I think it holds 18 trays and can heat stuff up to 200. And as I said, we'll have the 2 in-the-wall ovens.
When do you expect to know this other person's going to donate the extra money, the 100,000 you were talking about?
I would say before our board meeting Thursday night.
Okay.
And as said, it's a split. What I've asked him to do is make up the difference on whatever we don't. And then, as said, to get our full Arboretum status finished up, it's going to be about $45,000. So I just asked him for $100,000. And that way the Commons has a full Class 4 Arboretum.
Sounds good.
If
Again,
you're-
how much are you short of a cooking range?
I would say at least 150 to 180. I mean, it was, and we'd have to go back and rewire and it would probably punt us back on planning and everything because,
What it costs, you had to rewire it and everything. What they're going to do. Wouldn't it make your prices go up even more because of the rewiring? This is based on what this is, right?
yeah, this is based on what we've got. The biggest problem would be we'd have to add the AC for the kitchen. and that was expensive. And then we'd have to have, well, it's called an air conditioned hood. And then, as I said, the catering, and most of the new wedding venues going in they're not spending the money on the cooktops.
Most of it's already cooked, they just need to warm it up.
Yeah, they just need to warm it up. I mean, that's what I've seen. Every wedding that we've had, including I was at both weddings when I had the one in the barn, helping out, and yeah, they're bringing it in cooked.
The only, I'm thinking outside of that, pancakes being made for Kiwanis Club or the VFW, or
Yeah.
do we have an area for them to cook on? Like if they do scrambled eggs or bacon or stripples or.
They could pull up and do what they do now, which is they just use gas outside.
Well, they could do that on 11 plates or something like that.
Well, and
You could do
that's,
that, and you can do the big, I've done this before for schools and stuff. We just brought our pancake grills.
yeah, and plug them in.
And plug them in and do it that way. And scramble eggs on a 2-eye burner that we
Yeah.
brought in and do it that way.
I'm not talking about hot plates, but I would imagine somebody could use a hot plate.
Yeah, and it'd be over as long as they got the counter space.
Yeah,
which
and
I
that's
don't
the secret.
Yeah.
What they wanted was big sinks, lots of counter space, a couple of in-wall ovens, and then warming ovens. That's what everybody asked for. And,
It'd be nice to have a little deck with a grill on it so that you could.
Outside.
One more word and I'm through. Be a lot cheaper to do it now than 3 years from now.
Most definitely.
as I said, if I had caterers asking, if I had caterers and I saw it in other wedding venues,
You don't see anybody using it except caterers. That's your kind of mindset.
that's for the most part. I said the Kiwanis could be,
The church groups are really kind of.
but they're bringing in a lot of stuff too. They're bringing cooked.
Just warm it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even like with churches
Very
and stuff,
good.
they bring in their own.
I know over at Collegedale, I talked to one of the pastors, and it's getting rarer and rarer that they use that full commercial kitchen that they put into the Collegedale church. And I think now, 20 years after they built that thing, I'm not even sure if they could even afford to put in that kitchen again with all the requirements.
What's really needed and it looks good.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's not going to be air conditioned regardless of the stove. I mean,
No,
Just the,
The building will be.
the building's the community room's AC
you
and
said
heat.
the kitchen wouldn't be or something.
No. If you have a stovetop, you had to have a separate air conditioning unit just for the kitchen.
I missed a separate.
Yeah.
it will be air.
I heard.
Yes, it will all be AC'd.
I assumed that. But
Yes.
didn't hear
I don't
that.
want to cook the Kiwanis in July.
Anything else, David?
I
Any
think,
questions? Okay, Greenway Projects, Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yeah, so, and I want to thank the commission for letting us get together in a small group to talk about this, and Wayne's going to go through the actual presentation, but, one of the things that if you go out there and look, today, more and more citizens, kind of like with Rusty's theme, he wants to draw people in, and that's what we want to do from an activity perspective as well, as people are asking for more and more outdoor activities. And so cities all across the nation, US, they're building greenways. They're building connection points from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. And we did really good doing that years ago, and we've had some small expansions, but I really think that this focus will help us get to where we really need to be to connect, either up to Robinson Farms eventually, or from Talent Road to Edmond Road, or out to Talent Park. That will help us a lot. But one of the persons on our team made a comment that I really appreciate. It says our Collegedale citizens will greatly benefit from any growth to the existing Collegedale or Greenway. So that's really what we're focused on. We know we can't do it all in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So I've asked David Bartow, as you've heard, he's raised a lot of money over time, to help us in a fundraising when we get to the big projects. So Wayne, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you go
Okay.
through this.
So, as you know, we had the working group at the behest of the Vice Mayor, and came up with essentially just a working project list as a starting point, looking for input from everyone else into what more or less value, more or less needed, additional projects, et cetera. And I believe that list was sent to you. So this is, the GIS parcels are older. We've not been able to update. We have, and this was the vision, what, 15 years ago for future phases? Give or take. So this would have been early to mid 2000s future phase vision. So using that as a starting point, we then moved forward and came up with a working. I sketched this out pretty crudely just to kind of show it overall on some of the connection points. And as you know, as the current phase of Appleton Pike comes to a completion, that means the entire length. And so from there, we came up with this project list. These are order of magnitude costs based on just desktop level estimation of things we could get into. So that being said, some projects higher, some could come in a little bit lower. It also depends on when we do it and that escalation in construction cost. Historically, over a long time frame, heavy construction like this has about a 7% annual increase in cost. Some years it's much lower, like 2009. Some years it's much, much higher, like 2016. But just general, that's kind of where you are. Some of the projects are listed as external or internal. Some that are listed as external that are small, like they could internally and in-house, there may be an opportunity for cost savings. But the thought process of the group was we didn't want to get into too overextended with our limited resources on a lot of the bigger projects. For year one project, Appleton Pike would connect both apartment complexes down to Appleton, which would be not only high visibility, but would be high value with those residents there. It's a lot of people who would then be immediately connected to the Appleton sidewalk system, and via that conduit also to the Greenway network. The Edgemond Road to on-street parking in Misty Valley would be a short run from Edgemond into Misty Valley up to doing two parallel parking at the city's acreage. Sidewalk in front of the two houses in Misty Valley, that's just extending that on Edgemond. This is one of those projects that we would have to look at closely in conjunction with Public Works that may yield a cost savings if we could do it in-house, as long as we're not resource constrained. And then Appleton Pike at Swinier to the Greenway. This connection that we see where the existing gravel drive is coming off of Appleton Pike down to the Greenway connection, so that you wouldn't be forced to access the Greenway if you didn't want to.
So one thing I'd say about that list right there, if you could back up for a quick second, I'm not completely sold at the moment. I think the the Misty Valley Edgemond Road, that's why we want to talk to you guys today that's off and move to a different year.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get a lot of bang for your buck with that one, but you do get, we've got how many acres there? 7?
Something of that nature.
Yeah, that's just been sitting there for years when Misty was built. And we thought maybe that's a way to get some movement on some park or some type of access.
Right. I believe that property was originally donated to be a park at some point in time. So, and to follow up on what the Vice Mayor is saying, this really is a working list, was the goal of the group, for feedback. So feel free to add, remove, or critique. This is what we suggested for year 2, Grindstone to Edgemond Road. Again, that's another one of those projects that would yield a lot of value going from the residents in Grindstone and getting them to the sidewalk network. And then the crosswalks at Tucker Road would simply be striping that we could do internal. The Grindstone to Edgemond Road will have some technical difficulties to it, but we believe we can. There's an argument that could be made due to the nature of the residents of Grindstone that they would see the biggest net benefit from having pedestrian access to the sidewalk network. There's a lot of data that supports that. That bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in lower income communities yields the biggest benefit because it's not purely at that point just for recreation. There's also some utility to it. But we moved it to year 2, so we'd have a little more opportunity for planning to find the best approach forward to avoid cutting down the big oak tree and that sort of thing.
And I think the crosswalk was originally $1,000, but we upped that a little bit because of lighting we'd like to have, like a flashing light because today it's getting close to people getting hit. People are flying. That's where they used to always take out the mailbox there, the sharp curve. So if we could add the striping and some, maybe we move it to a different location, but.
So for years 3 and 4, these 2 projects came in at about the same cost at the desktop level. One would be going through the sewer easement in the floodway boardwalk, similar to what's at the Commons. Just is the Talent Road sidewalk. The Talent Road sidewalk does have some topography to deal with. It also has overhead utilities and that sort of thing that would have to be worked around. That's why it came in at that price point as well. And then for years 5 and 6, it would be we would suggest the other of the projects that wasn't done at years 3 and 4. Both of these projects would take some time for design and permitting. They are in some sensitive areas. They do have some technical items that would have to be overcome. And there would be a fair amount of benefit from really getting a sharp pencil on the design to avoid certain costs as we could.
And that's where we need David for those projects for sure. And maybe TDEC, we could apply for grants.
Correct. There are some grants right now. A lot of the alternative transportation grants that were used for the other portions of the Greenway have gone away. So now it is more outdoor recreation, that sort of thing for the grants. So in addition to the Greenway extension, Kirsten was benchmarking against some of our peers and found that in Spring Hill, they actually had 2 very well-developed programs for neighborhood sidewalk extensions and neighborhood traffic calming. So to steal a phrase from logistics, first mile, last mile, goods, services, or people into a network. And so by looking at Spring Hill, she was able to reach out to them, discuss what worked well in their programs, what didn't work so well, and some of the number of applications. What they relayed to Kirsten was initially the first year, there's not a lot it going. Then you have about years of a fair number. And then after that, your application starts to decrease. And so these would, if we went down this route, would be request driven from the citizens saying we would like this connection here, or we have a traffic speeding issue there. And then they would be evaluated. There's grading material, et cetera, to yield equal distribution of the funds. And this would really, a lot of our peers are going down this route so that they can get access to the Greenway networks and traffic calming. Heard about the speeding in Wellesley as an example. So we came up with a year 1 list of projects. These would be the smaller projects that are on that overall list if we funded the neighborhood sidewalk extension program. And so there's the crosswalks at Tucker and Edgemond, the driveway apron at Edgemond from connecting there. the Greenway, the City Hall voter sidewalk, and then some of the mobile traffic calming devices and enforcement. So those programs, that your first step on traffic calming, enforcement, determining if there truly is a problem, police enforcement, et cetera. And so that's what the mobile calming enforcement would be.
Can you tell me where the voter sidewalk would be?
So
I mean, they line up out
Out
here
back.
on our sidewalk.
If you look out to the sidewalk back here, there, the sidewalk actually goes almost to the edge on this end of the building, and then it
Mhm.
stops.
Mhm.
And then there's no sidewalk cars till it gets to the very back and then
Okay.
over. That actually would complete the sidewalk around City Hall.
Okay.
So these are some pictures and examples of, here's a lit greenway. Here's the Alcoa Greenway Bridge. Here's an elevated greenway. Here's a different shape of an elevated greenway.
I like boardwalks.
Just some kids riding. And they're using a stacked stone retaining wall there at the edge to input this one. So thoughts, questions, additional projects, feedback?
And Wellesley is on the list. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yes.
a couple of things we were concerned about is getting people from across the subdivision, across the road safely over to the Wellesley side of the road, because it's right there in the curve or right before the
Correct.
curve, so.
Right. That's why it didn't come in one of the early year lists, is it would take a little more timing or planning.
Where is the Whistle Stop Main Street sidewalk project that Commissioner and I had asked about a couple weeks ago?
That's on the general list, and I'm gonna have to go through these one by one.
I saw it was on the general list, but it never popped up in any of the years, so.
We didn't put it on any of the years, and that is feedback if we wanted to go that route. Some of the annual lists were what the number of residents. And so based on that, it's not set in stone. It is really a working document.
So do we have to, T-Dot's right away, do we have to get approval for that?
We would have to get approval from TDOT. It'd have to be constructed to their
their specs.
standards and their specs. That would take some time just to get it permitted, like anything in TDOT right of way, takes some time. And we would probably get a request to go ahead and expand it to do a crosswalk for the church parking lot that they requested 4 years ago. If we ran the sidewalk for Whistle, they would request that we continued it on to the corner and then put in that crosswalk.
I personally think that where you've gone is what, 98% or 100% residential connections? I mean, basically it's all residential connections, I think.
Most.
Versus connecting for commercial, which to me, I prefer the residential connections. Now, if commercial was connecting all kinds of people to it, but it's not, it's just a parking lot to a business, which to me falls in a whole different category relative to who's paying for it and what's going on.
I think to
The
your,
residents is what we ought to focus on, I think.
the biggest obstacle
want
is going to
something
be
there.
the railroad, especially with Robinson Farm, because I call it the newer, when I moved in 20 years ago, the newer section, that's Collegedale.
Mhm.
As soon as I step out onto, out of the neighborhood, that's not, that's, Ooltewah. So, and then, because they were talking about when they sold us the house, they told us we were getting a greenway. That was 1999.
Mhm.
Out and cross over, I know that's real expensive, so I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Mhm.
And I have to agree with Mr. Garber on the Whistle Stop connection.
So I
Yes,
think
I see
on the
residential better.
whistle stop, I think we need to go because, they came to us on be annexed. I think that, they're a business, they're making money. You can't get in unless you have a reservation now because they're so crowded.
No.
I wonder if we could do a 50-50 type, venture with them.
I think, it has to look,
But
I don't know if you're gonna look at if the railroad track's gonna interfere with them or not, you know.
What we have up here doesn't cross railroad tracks. It just goes from the parking lot to the business.
Is there any way we can get the county to go in since that's part of the county?
And that side of the street is not really Collegedale. They asked to be annexed, which I'm very grateful for.
Right.
But if we do there, then you're gonna have to talk.
Just the roadway right of way is us right now.
I think it's something that more of the community could start with, something that would actually invite some controversy. Not that we don't want to ever do it. And I think it needs to be done as far as safety, the first thing ought to be done. But I think there's some pros and cons on both sides of that thing that,
Some optics.
yeah.
Right.
And bothersome, I don't know.
One thing I wanted to point out is that from our perspective, to kind of taking a look at the big picture, is that so many of the things that we're talking about, or all of them actually, are development, which is always a lot more expensive than if it is designed in from the beginning. And that's where planning comes in. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of opportunities, or we haven't had a lot of opportunities with new development where we can implement changes to subdivision regulations and zoning so that we have more pedestrian friendly connections within these subdivisions that get them through the subdivision, then to hopefully to connect from that last mile that Wayne talked about. That's always the most difficult logistically and expensive. But when you design it in, so my point is, some of these neighborhoods that are talking about speeding, this is found all over the county, and there's a particular subdivision. The developer has an engineer who is to maximize lot yield, and to do that, a lot of times you have these straightaways that become drag strips. So that's another angle that we're looking at. So this is a multifaceted approach that we're taking. This is a nuts and bolts, dollars and cents approach. So we're also looking at how do you prevent it in the first place. So just wanted to let everybody know that that's more of a big picture of how this is a multidisciplinary approach that we're taking. So just wanted to kind of clarify that just a little bit, that's you have the problem now and then trying to prevent that problem in the future. So when you know better, you do better.
And I will say how grateful I am for you guys putting this together, because I was in middle school the last time the Greenway was worked on. So just to date the project, I would have been in middle school the last time we had any kind of work done to it to expand it. So, and I think this commission is committed to sticking to a plan moving forward. So that's really exciting to actually have it nailed down on a six year. So for working on this.
And the Greenway projects would be city initiated, open for, and we could do charrettes, get public input, et cetera. The neighborhood programs would be solely citizen based.
Right.
Go ahead.
The Integra process, have you looked at or thought about coming in the driveway for the ball fields? Right down to the bridge we've already put in there versus going all the way down to Epsom Pike, or what is the direction you're going on that? Because that wouldn't be very much road there.
So that is one of the projects.
That is one of the projects, and it's
the
a
direction
big
you're going
swing.
with.
Yeah, he's got a good point. Go ahead, Wayne.
It's a big swing in price. And because a portion of it would have to be elevated to get through the floodplain, there's a crosswalk, an at-grade crosswalk that have to go in on Little Debbie, et cetera. It's on there, and we would love to do it. To tie into the existing sidewalk system.
That'd give more business to Circle K. So,
But it's on there. We would love to do it.
And we had talked about from Integra going all the way up to Don House or commercial building, but that brought that project up to like $330,000.
Mhm.
So we felt like until they really get some more businesses in there, maybe we could look at that down the road.
some restaurants or something.
Yeah. And
Okay.
that was a good point that Wayne made. If you do have access, once they have restaurants in, the people will go up there and visit.
And we kept looking at the iron walks leading to Little Debbie Parkway, and then that's where they go nowhere. So we thought that is a pretty ironic circumstance right there, that they a lot of use from those residents that try to get to the Greenway, or just go for a run on the trails, or on the sidewalks.
So this Talent Road project that I've been pushing weighing on, it was 1.2 million. And now you see it's up to 1.6 or 8.
1.8.
So he holds true to his engineering, you know, he's $1 million man there.
I would love for it to be cheaper.
Told you.
And that's with us getting,
Mhm.
so. All right, that's all we have for the Greenway. So, you know, the main purpose of this is really to kind of put it out on the website, maybe get some feedback. I don't know if we can do a Survey Monkey on it or something like that, so.
Okay.
Have a town hall meeting or something.
Other questions for Wayne or the vice mayor? Okay, let's go with key mayor's report. Chief Sapp, do you have anything to bring up to the night?
No.
Bridget, do you have anything?
The other thing I have is this year, TML is going to be holding a legislative conference online. And if you didn't get an email from them, you go to TML's website and sign up. It's on March the 15th from Eastern. And it's free.
Welcome here.
This looks
Parks and Recreation Supervisor, do you have anything?
I did have some things that we have coming up. We've got to do some more online stuff because people are still pretty leery about getting out. So Thursday, we have virtual. And it'll be all stuff about special. We're still pushing our Friday club, movement in motion, our crochet circle, and then our super fun one for this month coming up is going to be our Eco Explorers. Our grade K through 4 are going to be taking a field trip to Great Place State Park to get a private who's interested in attending or helping with any of those. I'm glad to talk to you.
Wayne's on report. Kelly?
Nothing at the moment.
Andrew? Eric?
Nothing this evening.
Chris?
And I was just going to check if any of you all had any questions regarding the economic impact study that I had sent out to y'all. I'd be happy to entertain regarding that.
I thought it was a very good
Okay.
report.
Impressive.
The numbers kind of surprised me. I knew we had some impact in the community and across the state, but it's a lot higher than what I had expected. So,
Nice to have that.
that's it.
Yes, sir. Commissioner White?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Garber?
No, sir.
Commissioner Baker?
I just need to ask one thing, if I may. I got a text message while we were here, and maybe either Codes or Chief can answer this. Do we have anything going? What it is there's a Miss Carter in Homewood said that someone came to her door today at 2:00 and banged and knocked on her door, and she looked out to see who it was, and it was a man that went. He was dressed. He took pictures of her house. And he got in his car and drove off, and she didn't know if it was somebody from the city surveying or whatever. I told her I didn't know of anything about it. I texted her back. Do y'all know of anyone that's been going into the area, taking pictures? She is a senior citizen and lives alone. It was in Homewood.
Do you happen to know what her address is?
I can find it.
Yeah, if you can find it, I can consult with Jeremy to see if he and his runs, they happen to go by her house.
Okay.
If her house wasn't in disrepair, I can't see him necessarily having any reason to take pictures,
Yeah,
but
her house is, but I'll ask her.
sure, okay.
I'll tell her that to do that now. No, thank you.
I was just gonna say, Eric, I apologize. Last meeting, I forgot to tell you, thank you for getting Talent Road fixed. It does look better, still needs to be eventually, when they're done, with that some pipe, get that thing paved. So thank you. That's all.
Mayor Lambert?
I just got a note this afternoon from the governor's office saying that they're going to extend remote public meetings. And they wanted to give us heads up, all the mayors a head up. Other provisions that are in that particular Executive Order 71 are still under consideration. I think that was some of the sports activities and so forth, which really does not pertain to us as much. But anyway, we'll know more about that one and any additional information by February the 27th. Then I had a question. I get every week a weekly update from TML on what's going on in the Senate and in the House, State House. Are you interested in me forwarding those to each of you, or is it just junk mail for you?
I'd like to see it.
I like to see it.
Okay. I'll automatically, any of the key managers want it?
I get those updates.
Okay.
as well, and then also have the
Okay,
city planning association.
I get the TNL updates.
okay,
Sometimes they overlap, sometimes I shared some of those with Bridget that I've got to
Mhm.
recap of.
okay. That's all.
Anything else?
One other thing, okay, so that wouldn't have been him.
There are a lot of real estate people going through wanting to buy houses, and they're driving by and taking pictures. I got one the other day, and it had my garbage can sitting out, so I know it's a recent one, and my car was there, so.
We experienced that as well.
Excuse me, the governor.
Not in this particular email. I expect that will be in the one on February the 27th. He just wanted to give us heads up that they were going to extend that for public meetings.
So, and we're not limited to 10 people anymore in a meeting here. So it's 50% occupancy, is that not correct? I think so.
Anything else? Okay, I have a statement I would like to read. Mayor Lamb and Board of Commissioners, I am excited to be in my 15th year of service to our city as its city manager. Due to the fact that I am eligible to retire, I simply now desire to do so. This is my voluntary decision and no one else's. I am quite ready and want to turn the page of this chapter in my career in personal service for the greater good. While I am indeed disappointed in the many untruthful allegations spoken against me, I choose, as I always have, to travel the I am blinded by the brightness of my future endeavor, by the outpouring of support that I have received from so many. I've been privileged to serve the citizens of our wonderful city and county for 40 years, having begun in and services and ending in my current position as the full-time Collegedale City Executive Government. I believe public service is noble and honorable, and I recommend such to all. The current administrative team in place is most capable members of leading and managing this team in the many necessary processes. The city is a stark contrast. Much better off today than when I was appointed in 2006. My retirement plans that I'm notified my last day on the job are effective at noon on Friday, March the 12th. Until then, I gladly remain in your service. Until then, wish you well. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.